We got the new Spider-Man movies dropping June 2nd.
Yep.
Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. It already has been confirmed that there's a trilogy. Okay, so and what the directors or everyone who's working on it, what they've said is this movie is like their Empire Strikes Back. So
Nice.
yeah, they're building it up. They said there's a major cliffhanger.
I'm actually looking forward to the whole thing.
Welcome to Only Comics. Adrian, how we doing today, dude?
Doing good, man. Doing good. Early Sunday morning. A little brisk outside, but
Yes.
that's okay.
That's it. But we're here. We got a lot of stuff going on in I guess the comic book world. This past week, we got the new Spider-Man movies dropping June 2nd.
Yep.
Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. So we touched on the first movie a little bit here a few weeks ago. I think we just kind of both said we liked it. I don't know how deep we got into it, but and now looking back, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, it's one of my favorite comic book movies that we've seen so far. Definitely one of my favorite Spider-Man movies. Well, what were your thoughts on that movie?
Absolutely. It took me a little bit to get used to the graphics.
Yeah.
But once you sink in, once you accept it, it's cutting edge.
Right.
So liked it a lot. I liked the portrayal. I liked the multiracial family part.
Yeah.
So very good movie across the board for me.
Yeah. But yeah, the art style, it's very unique. And I agree. I think it took me a little bit to adjust, but once I got into that movie, dude, I really love the way that art looks. Like it for me, it looks like a comic book like coming to life.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that, but yeah.
They even there's a lot of use of like half tones on just live action stuff where I don't think we've ever seen. Interesting thing I was reading about it the other day is the Miles Morales, if you notice in the movie, especially in the beginning, when he starts learning how to swing and learns to spider, he's very erratic, like he doesn't have control over it yet.
Right.
And then, Peter Parker's in there, and he's been Spider-Man for, 10, 15 years at this point already, so he gets it. And I was reading that they animated Miles in the beginning of the movie at a lower frame rate than they did Peter. And as the movie progressed, that final scene where he takes that leap of faith or whatnot, at that point, he's now being animated at the same rate. So it's like it looks choppy, but it's very intentional, and they even changed frame rates. It was very interesting to me.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. But it makes sense. It made him look like a fledgling in the very beginning.
Yes.
Then he matured in his abilities as Peter, mentored him. So yeah, that makes sense.
And we were talking, I think it was week one, where you told everybody how tired of origin stories you were.
Oh, my God.
But I think this is an example of one that they did well.
Absolutely. It was a, parallel world, different universe. So that story should have been told. And it's a different story. It's not,
Right.
The Uncle Ben kind of thing. So very well done.
Yeah. Now, did you ever read any Miles stuff prior to this movie?
No, none.
No, me neither. And I remember, them creating a character, which I was a big fan of, because I'm always iffy when they just change a character to change it, right? But this one makes sense. It's from a different universe, completely different story. It's not like they just swapped out Peter Parker and threw someone else in there. So I really enjoyed. But I never read much of the comics either. Just kind of seen him in maybe some sideline stuff. But I really love this character, and to your point, I love the multicultural aspects. I think we get so especially the old comics. It's like every character is just white.
Right.
I love to see the mix that we now get to see, or if they're not white, they're the villain. That's usually how it works too.
Right. Asian people are, the evil yellow people.
Right.
Black people die first. They,
Yep.
they don't quite have superpowers. They just have guns and knives, and then the cops come wipe them out. Which
Exactly.
is true. But yeah, this is definitely spun differently. I like the whole dynamic, and I like how they've grown him up in this one physically.
That's right. He does look a little bit older so far in the trailer or whatnot. And I just, I love any type of story where we really get to see that character kind of progress, like see his arc throughout the film, because in the beginning, he didn't have the powers. He just got them. He had no control over them. There was a lot of self-doubt and whether he was even meant to be this Spider-Man. And then by the end, he becomes the hero. I love to see that progression.
I love also that they threw in this new power, the invisibility thing.
Yes.
That was out of left field, but that was nice to see too.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing I do like about the early stories is when they don't have a full control over their powers, right? Because like even that invincibility, in the beginning he couldn't control it. Like he'd pop in and out. And one thing you mentioned the Uncle Ben, they took kind of a different approach with Miles, where his uncle is one of his main villains.
Right. His uncle is basically. His uncle is obviously his brother, but his father is a cop and his brother is a crook, basically.
Right.
So that was a different twist. But I also like the fact that they went into the family dynamic a little bit more than the Peter Parker story. It was just we never knew about really, or at least I didn't know about Peter's real parents.
Right.
What happened to them? All of a sudden, you are introduced to Peter Parker with Uncle Ben and Aunt May. So you don't have that other, and they're nice, these old nice people on the corner, blah 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 blah, and Uncle Ben gets killed. So, but I like the Miles Morales story because it's a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more fresh, and it's definitely relatable.
Right.
How they pitched it, so very well done on that.
Yeah, and I love how much like hip hop is influenced in this movie. We get everything from the street, the graffiti. That's really him and his uncle's connection, is he's going down in the subways and tagging up the walls. And I just love the soundtrack too, the feel, even like the way Miles dresses. He's got Air Jordans on. He's got I love all that about this, and it just speaks to that culture. But it's one of my favorite parts of the movie as well.
Actually, one of my favorite parts is like when he's going to school, and you have all those things, but how he's fluent both English and Spanish, and he's going back and forth, and people talking to him in Spanish, and he's responding, and he's English. So all that was cool, and he just seemed like he wasn't the geek that Peter Parker was.
Right.
Even though he had some geekness about him.
Yeah. But
he was very well liked by his neighborhood, by his family, by the school to a degree.
Yeah, absolutely. So they've dropped a few trailers so far for the new one, and what we know already, what we know from the movie or from the trailer is Oscar Isaac plays kind of like the villain, this Spider-Man 2099, who as a kid I never read anything from him, but I always thought he was like one of the coolest looking Spider-Man.
Right.
I would always see that comic on the racks, but I'm like, I don't even know what that is. I would just pick up some regular Spider-Man stuff. But what I've read about him so far is his character takes place in 2099. It's this dude Miguel O'Hara, and basically to sum it up, there's some type of lab accident that happens, and his DNA becomes 50% spider, which then he gets these powers or whatnot. And I read there's some mention to him trying to, I guess, give these powers to others. And then in the movie, or at least in the trailer, what we saw is there's a multiverse piece to this, and there's spider people everywhere. So I'm wondering if maybe this character, this version, was able to give these powers to a bunch of people, and that's why we have Spider-Man everywhere, or if they're just all different variants. But all I know is that the trailer looks like it goes off to the deep end. Like there's a lot going on in this movie.
Yeah, and that's one of my concerns with this. It's a lot going on. It might be confusing. They have a main villain I've never heard of. What is this guy? The Hole or the Pocket or the whatever his name is. The dumpy.
The dude with the polka dot. Yes.
So I guess he's going to be kind of a main character, but then you got so much going on with all these different Spider-Mans and stuff, and my concern is that it's going to be a little confusing. For people to kind of grasp that. It might be he's giving all these powers out, but it's a multiverse, so and he's in a different universe from Peter Parker and all this other stuff, so it could be that dynamic too. We just have to wait to see.
Yeah.
But I'm also concerned about. It seems like they're trying to pull on that funny card.
Yeah.
So I don't I don't like that in movies. I mean, there can be funny things, but don't try to make the whole movie funny.
Yeah. Yeah, and you know, with Marvel, you always wonder, is that what they're showing us, or is this one of those trailers where they took all the funny, you know, like they spoil a lot of stuff in the trailer. So I'm kind of hoping it's the latter. I'm hoping they just took most of the funny stuff and put it in the trailer, because that was, you know, we were speaking about the first movie, and I think it had a good balance. There was emotion. There was, you know, there was times where, you know, the character's scared, afraid, he's struggling, and it wasn't just funny the whole time.
Right. I also hope that they actually stop. What are they on, trailer 3 now?
Yeah.
I hope they stop with the trailers. I don't want to go into the movie feeling like I've seen the movie.
Right.
Which has been the case with, you know, some of the movies that have come out.
Yeah.
They put so much into it because they know it's going to be crap to begin with.
Yep.
So they try to encourage you to come see it by showing you the entire movie without the plot, of course.
Right.
And then even with Guardians of the Galaxy, when they, you know, one of the scenes is when they're bringing Star-Lord out, you know, in their hands, but it just so happens that he's drunk.
Right.
You know, things like that. So I just hope they don't keep pumping out these different scenes from the movie and just ruin it for everybody.
Yeah, no, I agree. You know, even some of these movies, like now they weren't that good, like the Ant-Man, you know, Thor: Love and Thunder, but all of the better parts were spoiled in those trailers.
Right.
So as you're going through the movie, like, how am I gonna? I can't believe that this guy's really in danger, because like I've seen so many spots in the trailer that we've not seen yet in the movie. So like no, we're good. It brings the stakes down a lot, in my opinion.
Yeah, but overall, looking forward to it. Actually, I'm looking very forward to seeing this next Spider-Man.
Yeah.
The other stuff, well, we'll discuss those later.
Right, absolutely. We couple other points that I've read about this movie is it already has been confirmed that there's a trilogy. Okay, so and what the directors or everyone who's working on it, what they've said is this movie is like their Empire Strikes Back. So
nice.
They're building it up. They said there's a major cliffhanger. It's not going to end, you know, with there's no finale. There's a cliffhanger with this movie, and we've not talked about this here. Star Wars is one of those things. I guess technically there are comics, so maybe it wouldn't be against the. We'd have to check with the powers that be. Well, I guess it's us, so we can do it. Now, we've never talked about this. Are you a Star Wars fan?
I will watch it if it's entertaining, but I'm not a diehard Star Wars fan. I'm more of a Star Trek fan than a Star Wars fan.
Okay, but I'm assuming you've obviously seen the original trilogy, the Empire Strikes Back, that whole deal.
I have, but what was that, 20 years ago or something like that? I don't remember that.
Probably even more. But Empire, you know, it was known for being one of the movie where the villains win, essentially, right? That was where we found out that, you know, Darth Vader was Luke's father. That was when he cut off his hand, and the Empire pretty much was in control at the end of that movie. So, you know, and that was probably, for a lot of people, even to this day, is probably their favorite Star Wars movie.
Right.
So the fact that they're saying that this second movie is going to be their Empire, I mean, it's a lot of hype.
It is. I did hear that this was part 1, which I was surprised. I didn't know that until I saw the latest trailer. Yeah. This is part 1 of 2. Yeah. So obviously a trilogy. So I'm actually looking forward to the whole thing.
Yeah. And me too. I love, like, that was, you know, whenever we rank our Marvel movies, Infinity War is going to be probably number 1 or 2 for me, because I love how it ended, you know. And Endgame was great, but just that we got to see the first MCU movie where the villain won for a little bit, you know. And if it's something like that, I'm all for it. There was an interesting shot in the trailer where it seems like they took a shot at Marvel, or took a shot at the MCU. When they're talking to the villain, Oscar Isaac, and he starts going on and on about these different Spider-Man, and he goes, "Oh, and don't even get me started with Doctor Strange and that little dork on Earth 19999." So I heard that, Adrian, and I looked it up, and I was like, wait a minute. Earth 19999 is what Marvel calls the MCU. So it was a little shot at, you know, because they did their little multiverse stuff in No Way Home. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Right. That seems to be one of the comic relief points, and they trying to sneak that in a couple of movies. I think they did with Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, obviously it's all over. What is it? Deadshot, Deathstroke, whatever the dude is.
Oh,
Deadpool.
Deadpool. Yeah.
I mean, Ryan Reynolds, he kind of started that to get himself out of the Green Lantern persona, but I think it's cool.
Yeah, I agree. The other movie we've heard a little bit about this past week was Captain America 4, essentially, but it's the first Captain America with Anthony Mackie as Cap. It's called Captain America: New World Order, and you've seen the show, the Winter Soldier Captain America show on Disney?
I have. I did not see the final.
Okay.
It just got kind of ridiculous to me. I couldn't stomach. I couldn't stomach the portrayal of how this thing was going along.
Yeah.
And but anyway.
Got it. It wasn't my favorite series of that Disney's put out so far, but I enjoyed it. I think my biggest issue with it was it took so long to really get going. Like that was we talked about this the other day with these shows. A lot of times are like just long movies, in my opinion, which I guess from a storytelling standpoint, it's good. But when they're released one episode a week, it's like it takes a lot for me to get interested. And if the first 2 or 3 episodes are just kind of setting the tone of the show, then you may lose me. And that one kind of lost me. I was in and out of that one. But in the show, we got to see that Anthony Mackie, Falcon, Sam Wilson becomes Captain America by the end of the show.
Don't quite know how I feel about that.
Yeah.
And it's not so much the Sam Wilson character becoming Captain America, but drop the Falcon.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that this Captain America 4 is the transitional one.
Yeah.
Because I saw some other videos about one of the guys Sam Wilson was talking to in the show.
Yeah.
Is going to become the new Falcon.
Yes.
And then he will become the full-fledged Captain America, which I'm cool with.
Yeah.
So I'll just reserve my commentary about that. Well, actually, I won't, but we'll just wait and see, and I'll be hopeful about it.
And when you say lose the Falcon, are you talking about the fact that he still has the Falcon wings? Like his suit's kind of half Cap and half Falcon right now?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. I'm not feeling that hybrid thing. Do one or the other, because the Captain America character, he's like a Superman or an Iron Man. He doesn't need to be mixed up or intertwined or confused with another character. He needs to always hold his own.
Right.
Flip him over or don't, but don't mix the two.
Yeah. No, I see that. And the fact that they're going to have a new Falcon, it would be a little odd with both of them with the wings flying around.
Correct.
Yeah. Now, have you in the comics, Sam Wilson does become Cap as well at some point. Now, I don't remember. Does he have the wings still in the comics, or does he go full Cap?
I never saw the comics. I've been reading comics, in the last few years as steadily, but so I can't answer that question.
Got it. So I wonder. So, hey, any of y'all who are watching, let us know. I mean, they definitely love to point out, some inaccuracies on this show at times. So have at it. But yeah, I do. That part is a little, it to your point, it doesn't make that full transition to Cap if he's still got half the Falcon, outfit. But one of the articles, they had some set photos now of this new suit,
right? And
I did like the new suit. I don't know how you felt about it, but I liked the new suit. It was hard to see because it was it was half cut off, but the part that I saw reminded me a little bit of Steve Rogers' suit in Winter Soldier.
I agree. I like the new suit. Like some people have commented, it's like the one that at the end of Winter Soldier was the all white one.
Yes.
It's like there's no stealth in that involved. It's like, hey, here comes Captain America,
Right.
But in the blue is more stealthy.
Yep.
Not feeling the gold star thing, So I don't know why they came up with that. Maybe from, Captain Marvel or something like that. One guy commented that his suit looked more like A-Train.
Yeah, it actually does.
From the boys, Yes. It's like, wow, that's a downgrade for real.
Yeah, but I think to your point about still being partly the Falcon suit, because he still has like the goggles or whatnot. So which does kind of look like A-Train.
Right. They pulled the whole cowl thing because I guess they were having wardrobe malfunctions.
Wow, really?
To the point where they just said, screw it, we'll just get back to the goggles.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. But yeah, I did like at least the part that I saw of the suit, and then we got to see Seth Rollins, who now you're not a WWE fan.
No, I'm not, but I mean, it's good to see these guys expanding out, from the wrestling thing. You had The Rock and a couple of other guys, so that was good to see. Even though I don't know who he is.
Yeah, so I do. I follow WWE, and Seth is someone who on screen, especially lately, he's really big into his character. Like he's a great actor. That's the thing about a wrestler. You got to be an athlete, an entertainer, actor, right. The whole deal. So I'm not surprised he's moving into Hollywood. And on screen, at least in WWE, he's played a really good villain at times. In wrestling they flip flop. They're a good guy this year, next year they're a villain, but he's always played a really good villain. So it looks like, just by the way he was dressed in that photo, I'm like, he's probably a villain in this film. Doesn't look like he's on the good guy side. All black, the cloak and all that good stuff. But I'd be interested to see how he does here. I think he'll do well.
Well, that remains to be seen. Like I said, I don't know him, so I don't know what his acting part is. But it was hard for me because I didn't know anybody that I saw in those shots. They just looked like a bunch of rugrats to me. So I couldn't tell the director from the actor from the whatever until they started moving. Yeah. So.
And so far, we don't know a lot about this film's plot. What I've read is that they're calling it a paranoid thriller, and they're kind of comparing it a little bit to The Winter Soldier, which is one of my favorite movies as well. I love that whole, like, it didn't really feel like a comic book movie. It felt like like a thriller, and I mean, it really was political thriller, really. And but the whole story with Bucky and having him kind of in the sidelines, and that was a movie where we think Nick Fury dies. Like, it was, I think that movie doesn't get talked about enough, to be honest.
Yeah, they rank that as a real high movie. I agree. Very well done, very well executed, and that's one of the things I love about Marvel. That DC just hasn't figured out yet.
Yeah.
Even though Marvel is kind of like they're kind of losing their luster on a couple things, but Marvel can execute a movie very well. DC, catch up.
For real. But yeah, to your point, lately it's like they've been kind of hit or miss, right? They went on a streak, I feel like, around that time, that Winter Soldier up to Civil War, Infinity War, Endgame, that Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther. It was all kind of like they got hot. It was like a baseball player. They went on a hitting streak, dude.
Right.
And now they can't get a freaking hit.
Right. And they also had, like the TV series, the She-Hulk. I mean, it's just a lot going on. For somebody that casually, looks at comics, it's a lot to digest. There's a lot to keep up with. I think they did very good on some things. She-Hulk, not so well. But of course, DC, they're always failing on stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what is your take on the Winter Soldier character? Because so far we know that Bucky will be in this movie. We know that Thunderbolt Ross is going to be in this movie, now with Harrison Ford, because I think William Hurt was the other actor who passed away. So Harrison Ford's kind of filling that void. We know that is it Allegra DeFontaine? She's in this movie. She's the girl who's kind of been in the back round. She was in Black Panther 2. She was the CIA guy's ex-wife.
Contessa Valentine?
Yes.
Valentina?
Yes.
Julia Louis-Dreyfus?
Yes.
I was wondering why she was up and down. But whatever. But she seems to be coming out. She had a lot of scenes in Black Panther.
Yep.
She's going to be in more movies moving forward. So whether I like her or not, and I don't really care, but she's going to be around for the long haul.
She was you said you didn't finish the Winter Soldier show, but towards the end of it, you remember U.S. Agent, the guy who tried to replace Captain America, then he spazzed out and freaking hit the dude with the shield in the face. So she recruits him. So she's putting together like a team, which it sounds like it's going to be Marvel's version of like the Suicide Squad.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Thunderbolts.
I've heard it, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess that's why she's there. So she's like their Amanda Waller, maybe.
Yeah. Liv Tyler is coming back too, right? As something.
Yeah, she's the one who played Betty Ross.
Correct.
Yeah, I actually read that she may be rumored to bringing that character back.
Right. Well, they're rumored. I think that's more likely. There's also been rumors about Edward Norton's version of Hulk and all this stuff, which I would be thrilled to see. Yeah. Thrilled to see that.
Yeah, we were talking about that last week when we did our comic characters with the Hulk. Like, one of the things that I miss about the Hulk is that raw anger, that rage that we don't get with Smart Hulk.
Right. Yeah.
but it looks like they're bringing back a lot of these. You know, Thunderbolt Ross is going to be in it, who I heard is also, we're going to see Red Hulk at some point.
Yeah, my only concern about that, and I'm glad that they're branching out these things. I just hope they don't move forward so quickly that they disconnect the viewer from what they're actually trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
I know they're trying to accomplish a lot, but to hold somebody's attention for 10, 15 years, that's a lot. The other thing I don't understand is why they're bringing back, all these dudes that should be retiring.
Yeah.
Harrison Ford, great actor, love him. Should not be the Red Hulk. Pierce Brosnan, thank God they killed him off as Dr. Fate and the Atom. But Liv Tyler, I mean, she still got some mileage on her.
Right.
But I'm also struggling with the transition out of some of my other favorite actors.
Yeah.
You got Robert Downey Jr., no longer the Iron Man. He's dead. Chris Evans, he's dead. Scarlett Johansson, dead. Chadwick Boseman, dead for real. The Rock will no longer be the Black Adam. So I mean, I read he kind of like tried to take over DC.
Yes.
That didn't really work out for him.
And
so
do you think he screwed
him.
that up for himself?
He did. He was announcing his tequila brand at the Adam premieres. I mean, just crazy stuff. And then Henry Cavill, which have you ever heard him talk like in real, like person? Oh, dude, sounds like a 3-year-old.
Really?
Yeah, his voice is so high pitched, and he's English, which I didn't know either.
Got it. It's funny how all of like our favorite actors are English. Like you don't know until and you have no idea until you see them off screen. Like I didn't know Tom Holland. Well, I just I don't do all that deep dive into everyone who plays every character. I'm just here for the movie. Whatever you do outside of here, that's your own business. But yeah, there's a lot of them that you wouldn't even realize. But yeah, to your point, here's what I hope that they don't do. I hope they don't throw so much at us at one time, because I feel like then the importance of all these things gets diluted, right? Like that was, to me, what happened with Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness. I've seen that movie a handful of times, and I think initially I thought it was horrible. Then after a couple times rewatching it, it's actually a pretty decent film, but because every time I watch it, I understand more because they throw so much shit at you just right off the bat.
Right. I loved the first. It seems like the first movie. They try to follow up on the success of the first movie, but they mess it up so badly with this, comedy relief and the switching of people and all this other kind of stuff. But I agree, and that's what I hope they don't do with this next Spider-Man. They have so many Spider-Mans in there. Even like when he said, don't let Spider-Man go or something like that. Everybody starts, all the Spider-Mans pointing at each other and stuff.
Right.
I hope there's not that confusion doesn't cross over into the audience.
Right. But you did mention the comic relief, and sometimes it's done right. I do like the scene where there's a Spider-Man with his therapist, and he starts to go, and then my Uncle Ben, and the guy's just like, oh, let me guess, he dies.
right, yeah, I saw that.
But that's like that, you're talking about that like fourth wall breaking, that Deadpool type humor. Like that's that they're pointing fun at, like, we talked about this here. How many times do we need to see Uncle Ben die? How many times do we need to see that happen?
Right. So, I mean, I hope they don't. And I hope in the future, as this version of Spider-Man becomes more successful, they don't keep repeating Miles Morales' how he became Spider-Man. So I hope they kind of drop that and keep moving on, because there's so much content out there for these characters to do other than keep repeating. Even if they go to a different character, well, it's kind of different, kind of difficult to go to a different actor with Miles Morales. But even if they bring in, new people to play these parts, just keep the ball moving. Keep kicking the can down the road. That's a bad analogy, kicking the can down the road. But just keep moving this thing forward. Don't keep repeating this stuff.
Yeah. Well, with back to the Cap movie, if you didn't watch the Captain America show, you could still watch this next movie. And it kind of like it takes care of both, right? We get to see pretty much now, Sam Wilson's already a character, so we never saw his Falcon origin, but we get to see him transition from Falcon to Captain America in this show. But if you didn't watch the show and you hop into the movie, it'd be like starting a movie without the origin story. So it's kind of like you get the best of both worlds.
Right. So each, and I like that, each show can hold its own, with a reference to the previous.
Right.
You know, so you don't have to be like, oh, well, I mean, if you want to know, then you can go back. But it's like you're not going to be missing something if you don't go back.
Right. Absolutely. So, we went through the list of like sideline characters. I started asking you this question and we went off, but how do you feel about Bucky Winter Soldier as a character?
Bucky, I like the character. I liked him from the first Captain America as Steve Rogers' friend.
Yep.
And it was actually kind of sad to see him, go out like that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they, resurrected him literally in some kind of way. So I like the character. I like that he's fierce.
Yep.
He's almost to me like has that Wolverine temperament.
Yep.
And he's badass. I mean, he's a soldier. I mean, he was already fighting and everything even before he became basically a super soldier.
Yeah.
Even protecting Steve when they were kids and stuff.
Right.
So, like the character, like how they outfitted him. I just hope they don't, downplay his roles. But he's a complex character that needs very specific writing for his part.
Yeah. And yeah, I love that you said he's complex because that's probably my favorite, that what draws me to him. But my thing with Bucky right now is I feel like, what you were describing of him to me was the old Bucky. Mm-hmm. Now we're at this point where, the programming in his mind's been fixed, right? He spent some time in Wakanda, kind of, T'Challa and everything they have going on there. They helped them work through that piece. So they fixed him, right?
Right.
And then we even see in this show, he's going through therapy. He's dealing with a lot of these past demons. Mm-hmm. So he's kind of like, it's almost like my same issue with the Smart Hulk, right? We had this unadulterated rage to now where it's just like, oh, everything's under control. I can just sit here and eat tacos and hang out and pose for pictures and everything's just, perfect now. And it's kind of like, that's kind of where we got with Bucky. So I'm hoping, to your point with the writing, I hope that there's some reason why we can get back. Like, I don't think we should go full Winter Soldier where, he's mind controlled, killing everyone. Mm. But I'm interested to see how he's used moving forward because they've toned him down a bit.
Definitely, and that's what I'm saying. I hope they don't tone him down to the point that he becomes ineffective.
Yeah.
Not only as the Winter Soldier, not even being able to carry that title anymore, but also as his action scenes. They might as well, if they do, they just might as well put him behind the desk or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. But you mentioned him being already a good soldier before he became that super soldier. That was one of the biggest differences between him and Steve.
Right.
Steve was this scrawny little kid that he had heart, probably more heart than anyone, in that movie. And then he got the serum, became the super soldier. But Bucky was already that dude in the military. Like he had Steve's back when Steve was getting bullied.
Right. Right. So that was good to see. But definitely moving forward, I hope they are very specific in how they move him throughout his scenes.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't even mind seeing some like a mini series of the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and just with, I guess the nervousness I have behind this is because of what they've done recently with these films. We talked about Doctor Strange, like they introduced bunch of new characters, bunch of new rules, bunch of just like this, and I feel like we didn't. The fact that Wanda was such a good villain kind of got overshadowed by all this other bullshit. And then I'm looking at this new Cap movie. I'm like, this could be a great movie. Winter Soldier is one of my favorites of that phase. I'm like, if this is where they're going, it could be great. But are we doing too much? Are we going to have to deal with the Red Hulk, Bucky being the sideline character, Allegra de Fontaine creating her stuff behind the scenes? Like it just seems like there's a lot going on, and that part makes me nervous. So now we have not yet seen a trailer yet, so maybe we're jumping the gun. But based off what they've done recently, I don't think it's going in the right direction. But I hope it does because of what it could mean for the overall MCU.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. One of the things I wanted to point out was there's so many superheroes and supervillains in these movies. I like the fact that they have like the non-super villains or heroes like the Nick Furies, the Contessa Valentina, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Even though she's gonna probably she's creating these sideline super teams or whatever. Yeah. Emily Van Camp character. Like the secret agency.
That's right. She's going to be in this one too, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So I like the fact that they're spotting the movie with non-supers, because you could walk out of the theater after seeing so much of this that where do I fit in?
Yeah.
And that's what I like about Marvel specifically. They, like with the Spider-Man and the Peter Parker character, the Miles Morales character. They make you feel like that could be you.
Yeah.
And if they start littering, like from the opening credit to the ending credit, there's nothing but superheroes. It's like there's no normal people in there. Then it becomes it's a fantasy anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But the average viewer can't figure out, or won't be able to figure out, or at least I'll speak for myself. I wouldn't be able to figure out, like, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Because, anyway.
Now, on the Bucky note, if you were Cap, would you have stood by him through Civil War with all the shit that he did and all the problems he was causing? Like, I always looked at that. Civil War is one of my favorite movies, and I always look at that relationship as very interesting, because on one side they grew up together, right, for the most part. Bucky had Steve's back when no one else did. And then, Bucky, we think he dies, then he gets mind control, and then he becomes this literally assassin that's controlled pretty much. I mean, he killed Howard Stark, and he killed Tony's parents.
Right.
Like, a lot of shit that would be unforgivable, but then Cap is just such a stand-up dude. Like, so, you put yourself in Cap's shoes. Do you just go, you know what? Dude, Bucky, it was a good run, bro, but we got to put an end to this, dude. You've killed too many people. You're too screwed up. Or would you have stood by him the whole time?
Oh, I would have took him out.
Yeah.
First chance, I would have taken him out. There's only so much that you can do, because not only is, he has a history of this stuff, but also, you got to think about a character like Captain America. And he's got too much on his plate to be then pulling people out of the, out of the fire all the time, or worrying about what he's going to do. But Captain America is like Batman with, with the Joker in this point. He'll put him in jail all the time. He always gets out. He'll do everything but take this dude out.
Right.
But Winter Soldier, I would have took him out early on.
Yeah, I'm with you. I remember even, watching Civil War. I'm like, dude, how is he still riding like that? Cap's, of all the superheroes, if you had to pick one for a friend, you want Captain America.
Right.
Because about everybody else would have been like, dude, Bucky, let's go, bro.
Right.
It's a wrap.
Right. Even if, like Batman would say, I don't have to hurt you, right. I don't have to help you either. Even if he would have just stood to the side, Tony Stark would have took him out for him. He didn't have to do anything. Just don't do anything.
Right. So of the Cap movies, which one is your favorite?
I'm thinking the second one.
Winter Soldier. Yeah.
Yep. Winter Soldier. I like the intro. That was nice and nostalgic. Winter Soldier, that was it.
Yeah, I'll go with Civil War. We've talked about that enough. Right. But and I just but that I would go in that order: Civil War, Winter Soldier, first one. I love how they progress. Right. I do think that of all the trilogies that we've had so far, I do believe that the Captain America trilogy was the best in the MCU.
I'll put it up there with.
It would be your favorite.
Iron Man.
Iron Man. Yeah.
Yeah, I really, because of the tech.
Yeah.
I like how they matured that, and Robert Downey Jr. just made that character.
Yeah.
So that did it for me. But definitely, out of all of them, Spider-Man again, those are good movies, but there's been so many of them, and they've disappointed at some level. But Iron Man, then Captain America.
Gotcha. Now, do you like Iron Man 2 or 3 more?
Wasn't feeling 3. I like 2 better.
Really? Wow. That's I'd go opposite, but that's interesting. Yeah. I 3 to me, my biggest issue with 3 is the end, where it's just like it's just way too much going on. But I love like Tony being out of his element. Tony, I feel like there was a lot of character progression in that one. And 2, I don't hate as much as a lot of people. A lot of people hate 2. Like they think 2 is like, and I don't hate it as much as a lot of people. I enjoyed it. I get the critique with the whole Whiplash. Yeah, he's very different than he is in the comics, but I like Mickey Rourke, so I didn't have as much issues with 2.
Mickey Rourke, yeah, not really. I mean, I like the adaptation. It kind of made sense.
Yeah.
I like that whole dynamic, but the 3 at the end, that kind of killed because it's too much.
Yeah.
It's too like you said with the suits, too many suits all over the place, and then all of a sudden, the girl gets hers and all this other kind of stuff. So and she can automatically use it, know how to use it and stuff. It's like Black Panther's sister automatically can be Namor, 100-year-old guy. I wasn't feeling it.
Yeah, no, I see that, but 2 did have some highlights for me. Like I love the whole like Demon in a Bottle. I've not read a ton of Iron Man, but that's one of my favorite Iron Man stories. And actually in the comic, Namor is there as well, but it's all about Tony and his alcoholism and how that's affecting him in general. And we get to see a little bit of that in 2. So I don't put 2 as low as a lot of people, but I like that part of that story.
Yeah, that aspect of him. I mean, he in the comic books, he had a lot of low points. He disappeared for years at a time. Showed up as low level technical people, all this other kind of stuff. But that's also one of the things that made him very relatable to people. Again, one of those things that someone sitting in the audience, they could feel like, okay, I can understand that aspect.
Right.
But if you superpower everybody, it's like, damn.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you were talking about these sideline characters that are not really supers. And you almost could put Tony Stark in that cat because he's just a regular human being. He doesn't have any superpowers. He's very intelligent, but that was like he didn't take anything to become who he was. He created this suit of armor. Is that one of the because you mentioned last week that he was your number one? Is that another reason why you kind of gravitate towards him? Or?
Yeah, the ability to create something that you can then use to help other people. So again, you can build something and okay, that's cool. It's like you go out in your garage and you make this fantastic car. Then people can ride around. That's cool.
Yeah.
But if all of a sudden you woke up in a field of Ferraris or Lamborghinis, I mean, what's the fun in that?
Right.
And everybody can't relate to that. Nobody's gonna wake up in a field of Lamborghinis.
Right.
You got to get out there, work, do the stuff in order to get those things that you have.
Yeah, which makes characters like Batman, Iron Man probably more relatable to the everyday person because they didn't do anything or they didn't have to accidentally have this accident or something happened to them to become great. They had it within them and became that.
Well, Batman is I'm on the fence with that.
Yeah,
because his superpower was money to begin with. He's never not had it, so he had the leeway to go out and do all of this stuff. Yeah. He had he could make the time to perfect his body and his mind and so on and so forth. So I give him the fact that he's the most powerful, non-superpowered person in comics, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But he did have a leg up.
Yeah. Just like Iron Man.
Just like Iron Man, yep. His father, he basically inherited a company. So, yeah. Same thing.
Yeah. So another thing that's been all over the Twitters this past week, Adrian, was Frank Miller and his recent artwork. So he did a few variant covers, and well, I guess first of all, what is your take on Frank Miller? Do you like his work? I mean, he's Dark Knight Returns, which is really great story. I wasn't crazy about his artwork in Dark Knight Returns, to be honest. I mean, the first one was probably the best. And then he did some early Wolverine stuff, which was pretty good. What's your take on his artwork or his stories in general?
I miss a lot of comics, anime, because I base whether I'll even engage on the art.
Okay.
And his art was borderline even then, and now it's just descended into ridiculousness. This is a variant. Yeah. But that's an extreme variant.
Right. I got you. So you were never really a fan of his art.
No.
Now we'll look at these real quick. So this was his thing. I guess he did a Fantastic Four.
Garbage.
I mean, I don't get the style. I'm not a fan of it.
No.
it looks like it looks like a caricature of the actual. It almost looks like a parody.
It's a pixelated version of a character, and it's unfair to say it's garbage.
Yeah.
You have an artist has the creative freedom to express whatever is in his or her mind, but it's kind of like a sports star. You have certain expectations on you because you are putting what you do out in front of other people for them to accept. You can do all the art that you want or live your life however you want to in a closet, in your own house. But once you put your stuff out for the public to consume and you're getting paid for it, there's an expectation, I think. And he just went beyond with these pixelated, Pac-Man looking superhero characters.
Yeah, so that's Thing. Let's look at Moon Knight. Now this one's not as bad in my opinion. This is probably the best of the variants. It's also, he's got the guy's one arm and his head, so we don't even get to see the full body. So maybe less is more with Frank Miller, but this one wasn't as bad as the others in my opinion. How do you feel?
I agree. The Moon Knight variant wasn't that bad. It basically looks like Moon Knight with a COVID-19 mask on.
Yeah. And he's got this giant hand though, which the hand's about as big as his head. So proportions a little off, but yeah, this is probably the least offensive one of the bunch. Now here we have Blade. Wow. Blade looks like a freaking hunchback.
Well, he looks like one of the things that was in the Justice League. One flying around.
Okay.
It looks like one of Darkseid's minions or something.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening here. And I don't get I think a lot too is one of the things about when you're drawing a character, it goes, you think about how you want their stance, what do you want them to be with their body language. And I don't know what he's going for here. The dude literally looks like a freaking hunchback with bad posture. And really, I don't know. This one, I'm going to pull it. Randy Johnson. It's not for me, dog. This one's not.
I don't know. He's hunched over the gut. Are those blades coming out of his back or?
I think so.
It's odd.
Yeah. All right, we're going to pass on that one now. But this one, the Ghost Rider Wolverine, this is the one that I think everyone, this is the one where everyone was confused, upset. Right. There are people on Twitter going, Frank, please retire.
Right.
Stop making art. Twitter's, they're ruthless, dude. But I don't know what the hell's happening here. I go back to the same thing I said about The Thing. This looks like a parody of Wolverine. This looks like, I don't know if you remember this, but when I was probably, 8, 9, 10 years old, we'd go into these dollar stores and they always had the knockoff toys in the back.
Right.
So you'd have versions. It looked like Superman kind of, but the cape would be yellow. He'd have a diamond, but there'd be no S. It'd just be an eye or something. This looks like the dollar store version of their Wolverine, Weapon X. This is Weapon W. That's what it looks like to me, a knockoff version. You go to wish.com and you order Wolverine, this is what comes in.
However, this could be his brilliance at play. If he's on his way out anyway, we don't know that. He does something to shake up, the comic book universe.
Yeah.
Just to get opinion, just to have the, spotlight pull back on him. But that is horrible.
Yeah, and it's I hear you like you said earlier about an artist. It's hard to go, hey, your stuff's horrible because art is art. There's no science to it, right? So, you can definitely tell that the dude can draw. It's just that portrayal. I think it's that portrayal of that character is what we don't like. So I hate to go, your art sucks. It's definitely artsy. It's got its own unique look, but to me, it doesn't look like Wolverine.
In order to express what's in his mind, I think he's pulling too much on our willingness to forgive what he does with these characters.
Yeah.
I think he stepped over the line on this one.
Yeah. Yep, not a huge fan now. But so I mean, let's like, who is one of your favorite artists? Who is one of your favorite comic artists? And maybe what are some of their work that you really love? Because I mean, this not for you. This ain't for me. I'm a big Jim Lee guy. Like, I love Jim Lee's. I think Jim Lee's X-Men and his work on Hush are probably some of my favorite just comic artwork in general. I'm a big Jim Lee. I like Alex Ross. I love that style. It's very unique. And then Tim Sale, I love the Long Halloween, that whole style. But who are some of your favorites?
Well, I really only have one.
Okay.
And that's John Byrne.
Got it.
His Superman rendition. I think he in X-Men.
He did a lot of X-Men too, yeah.
So I love that style, and that's the style that when I was drawing, that I tried to reproduce. So he's the number one for me.
Got it. And you said you like a lot of his Superman stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, but he did do a lot of X-Men too, right? Was that maybe before Jim Lee?
I don't know the timeline, but he did a lot of X-Men stuff.
Yeah. But I'm probably not as bad as you with, like, I won't read it if it's not a certain art style, but I am a little picky about, like, that's partly why it's hard for me to go back to early comics, just because of the way they look. Like, I've read some of those just out of pure curiosity, like some of the early Batman stuff, like. Right. And I'm like, God, I can't get into the story because I'm so distracted by just the style at the time.
Right. And what's interesting is that I won't read some of the newer comics for that same reason. I just can't get into the style.
Yeah.
There's no shading. It's just like, just two-toned, and that's it. So right. I don't read a lot of the new stuff. I don't see a lot of the newer animations or the cartoons. Because the style is beyond what I'm accustomed to digesting.
Yeah, I gotcha. But yeah, so no, the new Frank Miller, I'm gonna go not for me, none of them. No, I'd be okay if he stopped doing variants as well.
Absolutely, definitely. I you know what? That's one of those things that you can't unsee.
Yeah.
And when you say you can't unsee it, which means that it was bad, so you can't unsee that. I just
And even like the difference between his. Like, he did this Wolverine as well. Like, that was the original one.
Correct.
Which, it's night and day.
Yep.
And this was
done. And I remember that comic book too.
Yeah. Which that was a good comic. That was when he goes to Japan and all that. Yep. Of those movies, like, were you a fan of the Wolverine movies?
It took me a minute to get over the Hugh Jackman character, because he's so much taller.
Yeah.
He didn't kind of fit the mold, literally. But he was good. Not a big fan of the Wolverine movies. I'm more of a fan of Wolverine.
Yeah.
Being in places, not the movie itself.
I feel like I wanted them to be good. Now I feel like they did get better. Now Logan, I mean that'd be up there too, one of my top movies of all time for comics. But the first one, I wanted to like that movie so bad, and I'm like, I just can't. It's just bad, Like the CGI on the claws is horrible, but just the story, like Sabretooth becoming his brother, and then he's got this girl, and it didn't feel like Wolverine.
Well, X-Men, Wolverine, Fantastic Four, to me those are Marvel failures.
Yeah.
To me, that's like any DC movie. Right. They just couldn't figure out how to pull it off to me.
Yeah.
So again, like I said, I like those characters. The Fantastic Four were some of my favorite superheroes. Wolverine, obviously, but Wolverine should be. I'm not really a big fan of the movie itself. Again, he should be a part of something, even though he's a badass on his own. But those two, Fantastic Four, X-Men, all of them were just bad to me.
Yeah. It really, I look forward to when we get to see these characters in the MCU, because they're all coming. That's the other thing that we've not seen any of it yet, outside of that one little tease in She-Hulk where, I don't know if you remember the scene, but they're looking at like a news article, and off to the side it says like guy with claws gets into a fight in a bar or something like that.
I missed that.
Yeah, so they're basically Wolverine's in the MCU right now somewhere.
Yeah.
God knows where he's going to show up for the first time outside of Deadpool 3, but I'm interested to see because they're for the most part, you know, we give our critique on these movies, but I feel like for the most part MCU has handled the introduction of a bunch of different characters pretty well. I mean, they had great presentation for Thor, Cap, you know, however you feel about individual movies, they presented them very well. Mm-hmm. So are we going to see that with the Mutant, the X-Men and Fantastic Four?
I always have high hopes for any X-Men movie.
Yeah.
I hope they do the casting better. The CGI of Colossus was horrible. So Wolverine, this Hugh Jackman, I'm not sure. I thought I heard something that this is probably like a one-off thing for him.
I think so.
He'll appear in the Deadpool thing, then he goes away. Then they'll bring out a different Wolverine, which even now I'm accustomed to the Hugh Jackman person portraying Wolverine. So now I'm curious as to who's going to replace him because, again, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, these are hard actors to follow because they just own the roles that they play for so long.
Yeah. But I think I'm ready, though, for a new Wolverine. I do. I had some of these same issues with Hugh Jackman early on, but after just seeing how well he just portrayed he embodied the character, it allowed me to get past the fact that he's a whole foot and like 3 inches taller than Wolverine's supposed to be. But I guess there's not a lot of like 4'11" actors running around that can.
Right, but they can go shorter. But also, just like Wolverine, I mean, there's so much content for him. I would love to see him fighting Wendigo. That was one of my John Byrne renditions, Wolverine fighting Wendigo. So, you know, there's so much content around these people, around these characters. They can delve, you know, into these things as opposed to regurgitating the same crap that they usually do.
Absolutely. And I feel like, you know, Marvel did such a shitty job with the X-Men portrayal. Like we talked about the presentation of these characters, like, and I get it was a different time, but I got tired of just the plain black suits. Like I want to see them in the blue and yellow tights. I want to see them all decked. Like we get to see Iron Man and all these characters in their true to comic suits. Not, I get the timing was different and we had to get there, but I'm ready. I'm ready for a new Wolverine. I'm ready for a new introduction of X-Men, and I do hope they do it the right way. And it has so much potential. There's so many stories that, you know, Marvel has with the X-Men that we've not seen on screen. We've seen like the same couple stories. They tried Dark Phoenix like 3 times. Each time sucked, even worse than the last one.
Oh my God, the girl from Game of Thrones.
Yeah,
that was a horrible casting.
Yes,
horrible casting.
Yeah, Sophie Turner.
But even Famke Jensen, you know, I didn't like her portraying that. It's like they couldn't get those characters right.
Right.
Great choice with Patrick Stewart on with
Professor X,
Xavier, but Halle Berry for Storm.
That was horrible.
They messed that up.
That was
time,
horrible.
So.
Yeah, and that's another character we've never really seen done. Like Storm's a badass.
Yep.
And on screen, she's just like this sideline character. Every once in a while, makes it rain.
Right. I mean, Storm is up there with obviously Thor.
Yeah.
You know, to me, because and it's interesting when Thor movies first came out, everybody was like, of all the Marvel characters, why this dude got a movie? Yeah. But you know, they pulled it off. I think, and Storm is just as powerful. I mean, she's not a god, obviously, but she can throw down.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we talked about this recently with her whole T'Challa. I mean, unfortunately, we won't be able to get to see that now because what is your take on that? Should they have retired T'Challa or should they have recasted?
Recast. It would have been hard, but they've recast Superman. They've recast everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand the sentimental value, and they did a beautiful job of the introduction of, you know, Black Panther 2. Matter of fact, that was my favorite part of the movie. Well, that was the only part of the movie that I liked, actually. You know, the memorial to Chadwick Boseman, but they could have very easily just, you know, picked up another actor. Well, not very easily, but they could have integrated another actor, had some kind of transition, something other than what they did.
Yeah, I agree. And even some of his family members came out and was pushing for him to be recasted, saying that that's what Chad would want. Now, I guess it's hard for anyone to say what someone would want after they pass, but I do think it's they've kind of put themselves in a corner now because there's no T'Challa in the MCU.
Right.
Like why couldn't they have done? Yeah, I also would have been okay with them doing something through the multiverse where this variant gets replaced. Sure. Like, just it would be one of those things. I mean, listen, they do a lot of dumb shit in these movies that we just accept. That one we would have been okay with.
Right. I mean, they have Earth 999 characters show up on Earth 1. I mean, people pop around all over the place. They could have very easily brought another T'Challa over, which would have opened the door for so many other things, including the Black Panther Storm thing, which I think would have been a great, even like a little mini series, because those two characters are very powerful, very underrated.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I agree. It would be really cool to see on screen. But yeah, I would have been down with them recasting. I would have definitely been okay with that. But anyway, you know what? We're talking about these X-Men movies, dude. We should rank the X-Men movies. We should go through them maybe for next week. We should come back next week and rank, because they were kind of the first movies that we had, the first Marvel movies before the MCU. You know, they kind of kicked this thing off. And I'd be interested to hear your take on some of them. So why don't we do that next week when we rank our X-Men movies?
So rank the X-Men movies that have been on the big screen.
Yes.
Not the show, not like anything else, just the
movies. Just the movies,
okay.
Yeah. Just so from X-Men. Yeah, and there's a couple different, right? You have the original X-Men, X-Men 1, X2, The Last Stand. And then you have the First Class, when they redid that, First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, all that. And then Logan is in there, and I guess technically Deadpool is considered an X-Men movie too. So we'll throw those two in there.
Have you seen? I think it's an HBO show or series, The Mutants.
I've not seen it.
It's interesting. I think it
New
was
Mutants or something like that.
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
It was with the girl again from the Game of Thrones, the short-haired one.
Okay.
That became the assassin.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. I would be interested in seeing that spinoff.
Yeah.
That show was actually better than any of the movies.
Really?
But I mean, to me.
Yeah.
So because I had such high hopes for the X-Men movie, and they just disappointed.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, yeah, we'll do that. So that'll be one thing we talk about next week. We'll rank all these X-Men movies, and so I'll be interested to see your take on that. But well, hey, another week in the books. Appreciate you joining me.
Absolutely. A lot of fun, as usual.
Yes, and always, hey, give us your feedback. Let us know. I love the interaction. Again, although we don't always agree. Actually, two quick things that I did see in the comments from you guys. Someone said that Flashpoints. We talked about Flash a lot,
right?
And your take was Flash is not a strong enough character to carry this whole reset.
Correct.
Now there was someone who did this video, and they're like, Flash is this strong, and here's his power set. But I wanted to clarify. You weren't talking about Flash's superpowers. You're talking about the portrayal that we've seen of Flash in the DCU, that's not strong enough to carry this.
Absolutely. Flash's power is severely underrated.
Yeah.
Which kind of coincides with how they've portrayed him in the comics and in the movies. His powers is well up there. You got to think about it. I mean, he has to be as strong as, I won't say Superman.
Yeah.
But in order to withstand the rigors of, moving the way he does and the ability to recover, I mean, that's some outstanding stuff. So no, I'm not talking about his power. I'm just talking about his portrayal.
Got it. And so someone also said this. They said that Flash could beat Batman and Superman at the same time. And I said, dude, you're crazy. There's no way.
Well, people don't really think about how fast Superman is.
Right.
He's as fast as the Flash.
Yeah.
Plus all these other additional things. I forget which one it was. Was it Justice League, the first one or whatever? When or the last one, when they resurrected him.
Yeah.
And he was holding up, I think it was Wonder Woman and Cyborg, and the Flash starts coming over, and he's watching him come near him.
Yep.
So in order to do that, he has to have those super speed as well.
Right.
And in the comics, they've always pitted them together, racing.
Yep.
They've always had like Charities, who's the fastest. I mean, that cape kind of is a drag, but Superman's speed is there. I very seriously doubt he could do that.
Got it. So we're saying no. Flash,
No.
sorry, dude. Flash is not beating Batman and Superman. He ain't beating them separately. He ain't beating them at the same time. That's what I'm saying.
Well, the first thing about it is that, Batman already knows how to defeat everybody around him, including his friends. That's the first thing that he figures out. So if there's even, it'll have to be instantaneously a kill on Flash's part for Batman, because if you give him any kind of a second to prepare, you're gone.
Yeah, nope, I agree. So, nope, sorry, dude. And then the other thing that someone said was Flashpoint is the best DC story of all time, which I'm going, dude, Batman has freaking 8 stories alone that are like Long Halloween, Dark Victory, Killing Joke, Year One, Dark Knight Returns. There's all kinds just from Batman's DC stuff, let alone everyone else. So I'm going no on that.
I'll agree. It's Flash's strongest storyline.
Yes,
I will say that, but definitely not the best storyline in that comic. No.
So no, two. Y'all are 0 for 2, but we appreciate the feedback. But no, it's all in good fun. But Adrian, thanks for joining me, guys. Thanks for watching, downloading, and we'll be back at you next week here on Only Comics. We're gonna rank our X-Men movies along with whatever's going on in comics, and then in a couple weeks we'll have some new movies to review. We're gonna be busy with reviews. We're gonna have Across the Spiderverse, the Flash movie, all within the next few weeks. So
we'll get it done.
We'll get it done, dude. Absolutely. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you, Adrian.
All right.